Hey guys, it's Justin. Our podcasts are finally up on iTunes. If you get a chance, do us a favor and go leave us a 5-star review and a positive comment. Today on the Garage Athletes podcast, we talk about the 3 things you need to be doing to be injury-proof that are probably missing from your program with Dr. Jered Hull. Hey guys, it is Garage Athletes podcast time. I'm your host, Justin Metz. I'm here with my co-host, Brandon Phillips, who hasn't been with us in a minute.
Nope.
We missed him. And Dr. Jered Hull.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about quite a bit of things. Jered is really, really smart. Is that
very
safe
kind.
to say?
That's very kind.
Very educated.
I don't want to give you credentials that aren't yours. So why don't you start off? Let's talk a little bit about Jered. What makes a Jered?
Okay, so what makes a Jered? First,
If I was going to make a Jered Hull cake, what recipes would I? Or what would the recipe?
What would be the ingredients?
very first ingredient would probably be, my undergraduate degree is actually in athletic training. So I started out my career as a athletic trainer. Those guys that run out on the field when somebody gets hurt, in the NFL, or you see those guys on the ice in the NHL or the NBA. So that's where I started. I followed that up with a chiropractic degree and finished that. And most of my work has been in functional movement assessment. And that functional movement assessment is focused on human patterning and human movement. And it's a very important role in what I do every day, and I couple that with a bunch of other stuff. But most of my things started in professional sports. I started in the NFL and some other places, and then as I worked my way down, started in doing high school sports and middle school sports and things like that as an athletic trainer. Held that business for a while, and we still have that today. And I also opened up an office in Kennesaw, so it's good.
Hey, cool. So yeah, and you, in addition to that, you also you own or started Dynamic Spine and Sport Therapy.
That's correct.
Which you have quite a few locations around. Is that right?
So we only have officially the main one is here in Kennesaw, and we have one opening up in Alabama in the next probably, I'd say, the next 12 months.
Expanding.
Yep, currently expanding, and it's 2 sides of the business. One side is a clinical side, and then the other side is in scholastic sports, where we have athletic trainers placed in 3 different schools. We've had as many as 7, but right now we have 3.
I got you. So, but when we were talking, you said you wanted to be the Chick-fil-A of sport.
That's exactly right. So the idea is to actually take sports chiropractic, functional movement assessment, soft tissue work, manipulation, physical therapy, bring it all in one place and put it together. And I just think that it should be where you go to a place, you should be able to expect the same thing every time over and over. When you go to Chick-fil-A, no matter if it's in in Florida or if it's in South Carolina or
They're
Georgia,
gonna be closed on Sunday.
They will be closed on Sunday. You're right. And they also will have that Chick-fil-A sandwich will be exactly the same. And I feel like when you walk into somebody's office, you should be able to have that same exact treatment experience and evaluation experience to really put that all together, and somebody that knows what they're talking about and be able to move forward all across the country. So the idea is actually to place them in every state across the country. And
it's not like that now at all. Most people know. I mean, chiropractors are. I mean, without trying not to be silly, but they're the mechanics of the body. I mean,
right.
You can go to a great one, and you can go to one and get completely ripped off, and your engine blow up when you walk away.
That's right.
So that's a pretty broad spectrum, and I know it's the same for a lot of things that don't have governing bodies over them or whatever.
That's right.
You get a piece of paper and you can do whatever. CrossFit gyms are very similar as well.
CrossFit
right?
gyms are very, very similar.
I think Brandon would definitely attest to that. I mean, whether it be a CrossFit gym, a medical doctor's office, a chiropractor, a PT, a lawyer, a mechanic, anything, a printing service, you're going to get all across the world. You're going to get different ones. And I think the main thing is when you look at somebody's thing. So let's say you say the Mayo Clinic. When you hear Mayo Clinic, I know that's going to be the same in Florida as it is in the other parts of the country, and I'm going to get great service. So that's what the idea is.
I just think of turkey sandwiches because I like them with a lot of mayo on it. I don't know. That's legitimately what I think about. But yeah. So anyways, yeah. So What's cool about that though is just like you said, like there's not any governing bodies around, and there needs to be, but that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So if you can get that kind of that seal of approval to where you know where you're at, maybe it'll make people a little bit more apt to go to a chiropractor or, you know, an ART specialist or something like that, because I mean, chiropractors kind of get a bad rap from a lot of people, or they have in the past.
Of course.
Anyways. Like
Absolutely.
There's polarized, you know, thoughts on it. So
yeah, absolutely. I think, again, chiropractors, for the most part, when you hear chiropractor, obviously you think a little bit more on the spine side, and that's actually changed a lot. They're highly integrated now into the even in sports medicine teams. All teams across the country and across the world use them, and use them in the right way. And a lot of them we're being taught obviously now is to really integrate into the healthcare system. So one of the things that we really try and do is say, listen, you know, we know our boundaries, we know where we're going to go and where we're not. So that really helps a lot of people know that if something ends up where they need a medical doctor, or they need injections, or they need some other things, that we can add that in, and that's not that hard to do. There's ways to work together with everybody, and I try and put as many people, both medical doctors, PTs, other chiropractors around me, that'll play nice in the sandbox, so to speak, with everybody, and know where their important roles are. So it's unique. Again, at this office, you know, you could see in a day where you'll have a recommendation or a patient that's being sent to you from a neurosurgeon's office, an orthopedist's office, a PT, and a chiropractor's office all in the same place. And then also the same thing holds true. I may refer you out to another person's office that does something very specific that I need to have done to go along with what you need. So again, custom treatment plans that are designed directly towards patients to make it where they get better faster is the only thing that matters. And that comes from athletic training. Like, if you don't get somebody out on the field fast, you can forget it. Your job's gone. Yeah. So as long as you're getting someone well as quickly as possible, get them safely back out onto their field of play, whatever that is, then you're going to be in good shape.
And did you see that a lot? You said you started as that guy. What got you into that to begin with? Like, just why?
Why athletic training? So why athletic training is I do have a love for sports, a passion for sports in general. I find that it's a great window into life, and I think those are two really important things. You're working together with other people, and that's what life is about, and really being able to have that go together is a direct window from where you are sports-wise. So where I thought is, okay, I like to help people, and I also like to be around sports, so athletic training is a great way to be in the front lines of that and be on the front lines with it every single day. And really what's fascinating to me is helping people every single day is what I really wanted. I didn't mention this, but I started out going to medical school. That's where I started.
Okay.
And I left medical school and I went to chiropractic school because I wouldn't have enough time to actually go into day-to-day care and week-to-week care with people. So that was really what I craved, and I enjoy watching that and helping somebody go from where they can't do something or where they don't know how to do something into where they can.
Yeah, bedridden to the ball field.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's cool too. And plus, I think you probably get, working with athletes, you get a lot, or at least I would think you would get a lot more satisfaction working with people who are actually driven to do better, because if you do it from a medical standpoint, you're dealing with like pathologies.
That's right.
And people that just want to not die.
That's right.
Like,
so, yeah, I don't want to give it something passive. I think that's the other part that's really, really cool. It's one of the reasons why I love CrossFit so much, is because those people are that want to do CrossFit, that want to be better, that want to train. They are highly motivated to be actively involved in anything that they do life-wise, and that's actually one of the main things that we focus on in the office is
they give a shit.
Get to it, right? So be involved with what you're doing. And it's really probably the number one most important thing and most important difference you'll see at this office is that I want you to be actively involved in actual treatment. So during the ART, right, you're moving your leg as I'm treating it, but also and also really at home, you know, you're doing stuff, you're being specific about it, and you're doing some of that stuff at home to really be involved in it. And I find people, when they're involved in what's happening to them, they do a lot better than if I just handed them, you know, a treatment and just said, hey, do this or just take this and you'll be fine. That's the part that I don't like. So I really like it where we involve people in that. And there's no greater population really than the CrossFitters. Actually, they're the only ones that really, really love working hard every single day and trying to find that next new step.
Yeah, say what you will about CrossFitters, and like them, don't like them, call them stupid, they don't know what they're talking about, or they can't squat, they're not strong, they're not fast, they're not really good at anything, whatever you want to say. Those guys will do anything and do it constantly, and just, I mean, they will change their entire lives if they think it's going to make them better. Like, I don't know what it is, like, that's embedded into someone, or, you know, someone that wants to be a CrossFitter. It just happens to be that type of person. Maybe it's the pain that you go through in a typical workout. Maybe it just kind of goes hand in hand. I don't know, Brandon, can you speak to anything about that?
Oh no, I think along the lines of education. When a CrossFitter comes into, at least like in Hull's situation, our situation, we work really close with one another. And when somebody comes into our facility, we immediately tell them the first thing we want you to do is move perfect. And so we have to educate that person on how to move perfect. And then once they get that little bug, they're like, okay, I need to work on this. They go to him, they come to me, and then we give them corrective exercises for them to create that movement pattern that's going to make them better at life. You know, and then when they get that first squat or they get that first snatch, the first time they do, like we had a lady do her first overhead squat in the open this year. I mean, she got 1 rep, an overhead squat, 1, but that made her like the happiest person in the world. Because, you know,
that's the first step.
I was working with her, and Dr. Hull got with her off to the side, showed her some exercises to do, and bam, she got 1 overhead squat, and that's all she wanted. Like the other day, I mean, it's what's it been, like 2 or 3 weeks since the open. And I think I talked to her like early this week or the end of last week, and she was still excited about that. You know, it's just little things like that when people get educated about it and they realize that they can do something, that everywhere else they go, they always hear they can't do something. And then when you have somebody there empowering them,
maybe that's
what makes
what
them
it
want
is.
to do it.
Maybe it's just the fact that there are numbers there that people can see, like, oh,
There's
wow,
tangible numbers that people
yeah.
can look at and realize that I am improving.
And those type of people tend to, when they see those things, they tend to like them. And you know, when you see results, you work harder, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see results, you work harder. So when there's always results and numbers there, then you're going to be more apt to work harder. So that makes sense, I guess. Do you think on the opposite end of that, either one of you guys, that maybe some CrossFitters focus on these little, or maybe I shouldn't say CrossFitters, but a lot of people, they try and focus on the little tiny things. So the opposite end of that, instead of just worrying about the big stuff. Like people were like, well, should I be training? Should I be eating my food 30 minutes before I train? Or should I have a glycemic index, a higher glycemic index cards right before I train? And this is like, no, you just need to squat, man.
I hear
You're
this
weak.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like they're worried about all
this
these
all the
little
time.
minute details. So I mean,
It's so funny. I tell people, and we talked about this, Brandon. There's no such thing as overtraining. There's no such thing as doing something incorrectly. The most wonderful thing about this is this is truly training. That's what you're doing. You're actually training your body. So all you need to do,
y'all talking about
technically-
practice.
Yeah, it's y'all talking about practice.
Y'all
Exactly.
talking about practice.
So basically, the idea is that when someone is knowledgeable, when has the right educational experience, Brandon, let's say for specific, when he says, okay, these are the
let's just say
workout.
Brandon.
Let's just say.
Let's just say Brandon for a second. He says, okay, let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this, and then you'll be ready. In the back of your mind, you might go, are you sure about that? That's okay. You're allowed to do that in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But you should go ahead and go through the process. And what I've learned on the training side, because I'm not as well versed as obviously Brandon or yourself and the training side, what I've learned is follow some people that know what they're talking about. And if you follow that and you actually do go in and be like, if he says, nope, that movement doesn't look quite right for you, let's go ahead and go back down to 95 pounds instead of 115 and just do 195 and get used to that and get comfortable. Maybe next week we do 115. I think that's great.
Listen to somebody who knows.
Yeah, it's actually
Doesn't that
right.
work with everything?
I
Like
feel
if you
like
want to
that.
be good at something, or if you want to be the best at what you do, you need to find the person that's the best at it,
Right.
and then go see what they're doing. And now, Grant, there's a whole thing like, no, you don't need to do what they're doing today, because like someone like Brandon, who's had an athletic career of, 40 plus years.
Oh yeah.
72.
That's
72.
training age.
That's
my
training age.
That's
20
my training age.
No, but Brandon was college athlete, wrestler, and I mean he's been training forever. And some people might see what he does and we're like, well, I want to do that, so I just need to do exactly what he's doing. So, but they don't take into account what you've done for the last 10 years to get to that point.
Right.
And
right.
that's, I think, where people make the
Yeah.
mistake.
And and another thing too, like going back to the education side of this, is like somebody, they read they read one article, or they have a friend tell them, hey, you need to eat this 30 minutes before you work out. and then they miss that one meal before they work out, and they have like a shitty workout, and all of a sudden it's because I didn't have that one meal.
Yeah, they freak out.
They think just because a friend told them to do something, or they read it in a magazine, this is what I should be doing. And I tell people all the time, like, when it comes to food, everybody's so different. It's like you can't make it another stress in life, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They make things just stressful.
How often do you see people stressed out in the gym, and they come in and they get a terrible workout, and they're like, man, I didn't eat, or I didn't put the right weight on, or I had the wrong clips on there, or, I need the different kind of tens.
I faced the wrong way.
Exactly.
I gotta tell you, yeah, exactly.
What about the stress? I mean, you're coming in and your job isn't that awesome,
You're
or your
playing
kids are
Godsmack
yelling at home
instead of Metallica.
That's right. I mean, that's the thing is just get in there and get the work done. And if today isn't as good as yesterday was, or tomorrow's not as good as yesterday was, or whatever, it's not about that. That's the big thing. It's not about that.
I think people, it's all in your head though, right? Like if someone gets so fixated on it that it gets in your head. I got a hilarious story of a buddy of mine who's military guy or whatever. Shout out to Big Will. He's got a great story about when he was training. He was doing like some bodybuilding. There's a guy in the gym that kind of always eyed him or whatever, and he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing to get?" He's like, you're looking big. And he's like, what is it? And he just got so tired of people, coming up to him and asking him and just, being that, like they think like, oh, well, there's got to be a secret if this guy's doing it. It's not just hard work, right? So he's like, you know what, man? What I do is every night when I go to bed, I take creatine, right? So like, you take creatine? He's like, yeah, I take creatine. What kind? He's like, well, it doesn't matter what kind, but you got to put them in your socks. So you put them in your socks and you
awesome.
sleep. When you sleep, because everything absorbs into the bottom of your feet more so than anything else. And the guy's like, oh yeah. I have no idea what he's talking about. And he goes, so when you wake up, dude, you're gonna gain like 20 pounds all muscle, but you got to keep them on in the socks. And he said he came to him a couple weeks later and he walked up to the guy and he's like, just messing with him. He's like, man, how much weight have you gained, bro? He's like, dude, I don't really think I've gained a lot of weight, but I feel strong. I feel great, dude. I feel good, but I don't know if I can keep doing it. And why? He's like, because my mom is just like yelling at me. I've ruined all my socks.
This is priceless.
Seriously, you can't make this up.
No, seriously.
But like they're willing to listen to what he says because it's this special new fix to instead of just like doing what you're supposed to be doing that most people know what you should be doing. Like
that's great. I'm gonna have to try that.
Hey, you got to meet Will too. I don't think you've ever met Will. So
I do think it's smart though when you've got letters behind your name, or you've got experience beside you, or you've got all those things. Those help build trust. I think there's actually a lot of people out there that actually do know some of what they're talking about, but don't have those credentials, and they should take themselves a little bit of seriousness. But when you're around and you place yourself around those mentors, go ahead and take their advice. Go ahead and try it, and it may take 17 mentors before you find out this is the right thing for me, and that's okay too. That really is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, but don't take advice from a big army guy in the gym.
Probably not,
because he's going to tell you to put creatine in your socks.
Definitely special forces. Watch those guys. They cut you deep right there. Watch out.
Oh man. So well, speaking of what not to do and things that are like common problems or whatever, what we want to talk about today with you is what are the main things, or let's say, I don't know, everybody likes threes. Let's say 3, right? What are the top couple things that you see on a common, such common basis that people aren't doing, specifically CrossFitters, that maybe they're not aware of, and that lead to injuries or just pathologies in general, like issues and stopping people from seeing improvement.
With CrossFitters too, we're talking about like people that do Olympic lifting.
So functional fitness athletes.
Yeah, Olympic lifters, any kind of CrossFit Games competitors, everyday people, whatever it is.
Power lifters, yeah, whatever.
Power lifters.
I think one of the that's a cool noise.
Yeah, that's a really cool. Brandon's making out with his mic. Yeah.
It's really cool for me to sit and talk to you guys, because I get a chance to talk about some of the things that I see on a daily basis in my office with our patients. Sometimes they go to Brandon's gym. Sometimes they've been to Justin's gym. Sometimes they've been to a lot of different gyms around in the area. And one of the first things I want to talk about is that CrossFit is a very linear or north and south kind of movement, right? So that snatch comes from the ground directly above your head and then back to the ground again. Ideally, there would be no rotation in that. The funniest part about this is there is a ton of rotation that happens in CrossFit, and you need to be able to prevent that rotation. Not necessarily that you need to like become a golfer, right? So although that might supplement what you're doing, I think anti-rotation exercises are the number one thing that most of the time, and specifically, this is funny, the shoulder. It plays a huge role in the shoulder. There are two muscles that I often get a chance to talk about that we often start with people, and it's the serratus anterior, which is a muscle that attaches on the medial border and of the scapula or inside border close to the spine, underneath, and attaches onto the ribs. And what happens with that muscle is it actually pulls the shoulder blade up against the rib cage and forward. And it's funny because the shoulder has two motions, and that motion really needs to go above the head with the humerus or the arm bone first and the shoulder bone first, and then the scapula needs to fall along with it. But if you don't ever get that shoulder blade going forward, and it's funny because nobody thinks about going forward. They're always like, oh, keep your back tight. That shoulder blade actually has to go forward in order for that arm to go above your head. And if you can hold that shoulder blade in place, you'll never have a problem. And the external oblique is the other one, and the serratus anterior. Those are the two muscles.
So just for people who don't have any idea about anatomy whatsoever, the serratus is the piece right around the lat underneath your armpit.
That's right.
That kind of makes it looks like you're kind of yoked if you do the double bicep.
That's right. So
right?
Yeah, if you really pull really hard, it actually. Rich has a great serratus anterior. It's actually what makes him awesome.
Yeah, go look up a picture of Rich right now.
If you go look up a picture of Rich straight above his head, where his arms are straight above his head and he's locked out, you'll actually see 3 little bumps that look like fingers coming out towards his ribs.
That's actually the midget inside his body that helps him work out.
That's right. That's the one
his
that
life
turns.
coach. That's his life coach. His life coach.
So that serratus, that thing turns on, and if that thing is super, super strong, you're never actually going to never have a shoulder problem at all. It'll fix neck problems. It'll fix mid-back problems. Sometimes it'll even fix low back problems too.
But it's something that's not actually worked directly in CrossFit
Not
a
at
lot
all.
Because even like we talk about the different or the planes, most is in the sagittal, whichever one you whichever you're talking about. Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's like potato.
That's right.
No, there's one way to say it, but a lot of it is in that plane, that straight up and down, the thruster plane.
That's right.
As I call it,
That's
right?
right.
And while you see the coronal and the transverse or the sideways and or twisting movements in like maybe regional stuff or at the games level, like with sledgehammers and like
That's
throwing
exactly
a baseball,
right.
that
That's
stuff
exactly
happens,
right.
but it doesn't happen in the open.
No.
There's no hammer strikes in the open.
That's right.
So the vast majority of people are like, well, why the hell do I need to worry about that? Well, it's because it's going to make you keep being able to train and get better.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's why they actually give it. Most of the time they give it to a regional or a games competitor because they know that they actually have that working. And there's the other part of how do we test that and how do we quantify it and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. That's one side. But I think the big thing is diagonal movement patterns across your body, strengthening and isolating some of those muscles, and actually doing some movements. There's actually one that we've done a video with Brandon before, but whether you do a movement called the pile-off press. It's really, really super simple. Everybody can do it. You can take that.
You do it with a band.
Yeah, you can do it with a band. And we actually do them with some of the members. We've got some bands, and then we've got also some other people that we do it with. And you can do it you can do it at the gym with a cable. It's actually where it started with power lifters. They are the ones who actually found it the first way.
Yeah, with the fly machine.
That's exactly right. So what they do is you stand straight up and down. Your core is tight. Your chin is pulled back into your neck. Your hands are by your side with a band pulling you directly towards the wall. And all you're doing is you're just standing there pushing outwards and back. And the funny part is people are like, man, this is the doc's doing this. It looks pretty easy. And then they stand up there and they barely do it because they have no sides of the core. They've got nice ripped abs on the front. That's cute.
Yeah.
But they got to work on the outside parts.
Because they do a buttload of crunches and
That's
weighted sit-ups or whatever, but they don't do what your core is actually meant to do, which is stabilize your spine.
That's right. Stabilize the spine from rotation. There's
Yeah.
these 3 other muscles that are inside of the spine that nobody ever talks about. Everybody says, "Oh, give me the rectus abdominis or the ab muscles that you see the 6-pack on front." There's 3 other muscles that are more important. They're bigger and they're even stronger. The transverse abdominis, it looks like a belt that goes all the way around you, and then the 2 obliques that lay over top of it, and then they have external and internal, and they literally lay like crosses all the way around the body. And it's like a scaffolding system. It holds it all together.
Yeah. So, and yeah, those aren't really programmed. You don't get those from GHDs.
No,
Sit-ups.
you won't. And it's funny because you'll see sometimes the cash outs will be it's funny. Cash out will be at our gym. It's like, okay, let's do a side plank. A what? You know, like how many times have we done? How many times you do that in the gym? It's just not too often.
Yeah, those side planks don't show up in the open. Why do I need to do that?
No, we do. We actually use the med balls a lot.
That's right.
For interrotation.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's just for a wall ball. But Dynamax, if you go to the website, they actually have some really great. They actually, I don't know if they came out first with WODs or CrossFit did, but they have like.
I know
WOD
it was like chicken and egg type thing
yeah,
right there.
Yeah, I mean they've had it on their while. You go to their
Yeah.
YouTube videos, they've been dating back for a while.
There
when
used
they
to be
said
links
WOD.
to the Dynamax
Yeah.
site on HQ
And a lot
site,
of
I
people,
know.
they have some great complexes with a med ball that a lot of people don't know. And most gyms only have like a 20-pound, 14-pound, and a 10-pound med ball. In our gyms, we specifically bought 4-pound med balls to work on speed like Dynamax wants you to do with their complexes. So, I mean, I really think that's a great tool to have. And I know some of my best lifts came when I was actually specifically training with a med ball only outside of my lifting, just to make it stronger. And there's a really cool thing with James Tatum at MDUSA. I think it was James. You might know this more, but I was talking to Rudy, and they stuck a weight vest on him for like 2 months or something like that. I forgot. But he just wore a 40-pound weight vest. He'd wake up in the day, put it on, and just walk around. That's all he did. Just wore a 40-pound weight vest, and he would take it off to do his lifts, obviously. But they say he got so much stronger because if you think about it, you got an extra 40 pounds every time you stop, move, turn. That extra weight is going there, so your body has to counteract that reaction in order for you to change direction. It's just stuff you don't think about.
No,
So
absolutely.
they say
Well,
you
I know
got
I've been
a
working
lot
on
stronger.
I've been working on my oblique hypertrophy. So I've just been doing like 80-pound dumbbells going side to side just because I want to have a really big fat belly in the middle, but it to be all muscle.
That's the cool part. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny.
Everybody's like, man, you're getting love handles. No, man, I just got sick obliques.
Yeah, seriously. And what's interesting is Annie Storesdaughter is actually one of the big proponents of this, and actually you'll see her if you ever
Distended bellies.
Yeah, if you ever get really close to her, watch her on TV, it looks like she's almost has a belly a little bit. And it's funny because she's actually trained that transverse abdominis so much a belt-like thing that it's actually pushing out against all the rest of the core, and it's creating a very stable environment for her to do that. And she's been working with some other people here recently about, working on her different movements and stability patterns so she can get rid of that back pain, and it really helps. It really helps a lot, and it helps being able to meet all the demands of the other lifts. It's funny, you're talking about a 4-pound med ball. The major leagues, Eric Creasy, that's all they use. They don't use anything else. They throw a baseball 100 miles an hour, and you're telling me they don't pick up anything else other than a 4-pound med ball? You can't get a great workout being some of those guys. Come on.
Sports specific, man.
That's right.
For sure. So, okay, so we're talking about, if we're talking about specifically for the first one that you would say that most people ignore, be the serratus.
Serratus, yes. Anti-rotation, absolutely.
And some things to help with that. And we'll put links to all these videos in there. We've actually got some of them already made, and we'll do some more for you guys to make sure that you're doing them properly so you don't go to Snap City. But so the pile-off press.
The pile-off press. You can actually do.
I say pile-off. I know it's an A, so whatever. I'm from the South.
Yeah, it's a Southern thing.
It's, the pile-off press is one. There's one where you actually isolate the serratus, which is really kind of cool. We show it on our website as well. But the where you're actually just laying flat on your back. You have a kettlebell in your hand. You push straight down on your shoulder, down towards your feet, and just push straight up. Really, really super simple. It's underneath the blog that's on there. Okay. So it's really super simple. It's actually really straightforward, and it's actually quite difficult. And but that's a good one. And I would think there's one other one that you would take a very, very small mini band with, and you actually do a lunge outward with it, and you make sure that you are not rotating around, and it's trying to pull you around. So you actually have it around your shoulder, and it's trying to pull you out of position, trying to whip you around the opposite direction, and you keep your body still, and you're fighting against that the whole time. It really works quite well.
Cool. I like those. I haven't heard about the third one. Well, cool. So what do you think would be the next thing, that being number one? The
next thing is related to more to the pelvis and actually pelvic position during the squat. We actually, and everybody's going to get upset with me, but that's okay. I think
F them.
Right. I think the most interesting thing in the world is that everybody points their pelvis towards the ground bends their hips backwards, and then initiates a squat. No. You got to keep that posterior position. And Stuart McGill, who's a medical doctor who did all of his research on lower back injuries, said that you have to maintain that curvature the entire time. And that posterior tilt, or what I'm talking about, keeping the pelvis in the right position, is that if it doesn't do that on the way down, either you have ankle problems, knee problems, hip flexor problems, or even you're just not strong enough to get to the position.
So you're saying anterior tilt, meaning
so you would actually,
if a dude's doing it, he's trying to put his junk as close to the floor as he possibly can.
That's right. So if you look like a cheerleader,
or
the
for
cheerleader butt,
the
you got
stripper,
that thing out,
you're trying to make the butt look bigger than it is.
That's right.
So you get that arch in the back because it looks sexy.
No.
That's why I do it.
That's right.
My wife likes it.
It's actually where you should actually roll that pelvis the opposite direction.
Opposite way.
So if we're thinking about a wheel, we would actually, if the pelvis is looking like a wheel on the side, I tell my patients a lot, look at it from a wheel perspective. Don't go forward with that wheel. Spin that wheel slightly backwards and then start going downward.
Do you think a lot of people...
So basically you want to go straight down.
I want the hip to be straight down and straight back up. You know, if the Chinese guys, when they catch a clean, you see them, they're straight up and down.
Asian
and they
American.
actually have... Asian, excuse me. They actually have 45 degrees of ankle dorsiflexion. 45 degrees.
Which is 40 is normal,
20
right?
is normal.
Oh, 20 is normal.
So
I thought 40... Well, 40 is optimal.
Right, so 40 is optimal.
We got a guy at
for
the gym
Olympic
that's got
lifting.
4.
Yeah, whoa.
Most people.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like, again, when you get evaluated and you have great coaching around you and they're watching you doing something, and if they see that the knee is not traveling over top of the toe, which whoever said that, I'm going to punch them. The knee should go as far forward over top of the toe as possible when you're doing Olympic lifting or other squats or other things.
You're talking
fast.
about in front of the toe, not
That's
necessarily like valgus or
not side to side, but I'm talking about 4 inches in front of the toe. That's the ideal position to catch a heavy clean or heavy snatch. That's the ideal position. And again, that's a long way for that knee to travel, and I don't think most people are used to it. When they first start, they'll have some pain. All right, they'll get some pain, and then it'll start to get better after that.
Most people are like, my knees hurt. I was like, well, how many have you ever done this before? And they're like, no. I was like, well, then it's going to feel uncomfortable.
It's going to hurt
because that scar tissue has to come apart a little bit and pull, and the actual quad and the calf, both in the front and the back of the knee, they actually have to relearn how to move the knee. And most people, again, when they sit at their desk or whatever throughout their whole life, it's been 45 degrees straight up and down with no ankle dorsiflexion or no ankle movement at all. And now you're asking them to give them 20, 30, 40 degrees. It's going to be sore a little bit.
Okay,
hence why whenever you have somebody squat and they can't do it, but you put their heel up on a 10-pound plate,
that's right.
All of a sudden their butt goes straight down in their heels and their knees are forward.
Yeah, because it's shortening that complex of the posterior chain.
That's right.
So, what about the opposite side about that? Is because I know a lot of coaches will tell people to arch their back because they have a rounding, because they have extremely tight hamstrings. So, in other words, the wheel going the opposite direction now, and it's creating you're no longer neutral. It's that. So, what do you do to?
So the butt winking basically.
Exactly,
this is the whole butt wink.
Yeah.
So the butt wink is actually where, and Brandon can talk more about this. This is actually a training issue. So you can't actually keep the glute medius and some of the other glutes tight enough and actually stabilize the pelvis throughout the range of motion. These are where we talked about actually a little bit earlier. This is pause squat world. You have to be able to have it and be strong enough to be able to get down in the bottom and then come back up again. And that's what I find is most interesting. Butt winking actually is a dysfunction on the front part of the pelvis.
Not
this
necessarily
is a
mobility issue.
Yeah, it's mostly stability. And here's the funny part. When you go down and you go back up again, you should be pushing your pelvis through the floor, thinking like almost, and it's crude, but almost like you're going to use the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Like to have a bowel movement, that's the actual stability pattern work that you're actually going to do when you get down to the bottom, because then it's bracing the bottom of the core.
Have you guys seen the squatty potty? You seen that?
I think I did see that.
So it like
Facebook,
brings your feet up, so you're basically in like the bottom, ass to grass of a squat.
Well,
that's what the Asian population
does.
Asian, and they're really
they still
good.
Take poops in the
Asian
ground.
American.
The Asian American.
They still take poops in the ground.
Yeah,
and they don't have any problems.
Well, here's a funny.
My dog doesn't have.
They can stay tight in the bottom.
My dog poops on the ground, and he has no knee problems either.
And here's the interesting thing is, when you look at like specifically in China, they did this research study. They're like, okay, how many hip replacements and how many knee replacements have we done? Okay, I know they have a bigger population than us, and the sample size is much bigger, but it's less than 10%.
Well, yeah, ratio. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's less than 10%. In this country, it's over 60%. Over 60% over the age of 55.
Because of chairs. I want to stand up. Can we do the rest of the podcast? Or laying down?
He's like, I'm going to do this flat.
I'm going to get down in my.
Yeah, I'm going to stand up.
I'm going to get down in my paleo squat.
Yeah,
Where's Nick at when we got
Let me take a
videotaper?
knee.
When's somebody we
I know.
videotape this?
This is the one we need to videotape. Okay, so cool. So you would say, and so then again, something to fix that. You would say pause squats would be a good.
So pause squats is
maybe not
absolutely
necessarily
wonderful.
heavy pause squats, but
No,
like
and here's the
a
funny part.
goblet.
You can do a bar, a goblet, something like that. And what I actually learned this from Brandon, which I thought was a wonderful trigger. You put that PVC pipe, and you can talk about this, and put that PVC pipe up against their butt and say, don't touch this PVC pipe when you come back up. And it puts you in the right position. And it forces you to go knees forward, pelvis locked in place, pelvis forward all the way up out of the bottom. So again, go to the bottom of that squat, pause in the bottom. You're going to count to 3. And that person's going to line that PVC pipe up straight up, and there's going to be touching your butt. And then you say, don't touch my PVC pipe when you come back up. I mean, Brandon, you could talk more about that and tell them about that.
Well, regardless of if you're a 200-pound squatter or man, Brandon's having such a hard time with that microphone. I feel so bad for him.
He
also kind of look like Mickey
use.
Mouse with a thing. Yeah,
He doesn't have a barbell to use, so he's just not
It's
sure
not a
what
barbell.
to do. He's sure not. We're not exactly sure what to do.
But regardless of if you're a 200-pound squatter or a 400-pound squatter, if you have that tilt there, you don't have to dump a buttload of weight on the bar.
No.
You can just the stability, just getting in that position and getting comfortable in that position and creating, trying to recruit some muscle fibers by being in there is good enough to get you started in moving in the right direction.
That's right.
Yeah, we specifically at our gym, we started doing a lot of like, I call them hip heist drills. I know for wrestling it was a different term, but for my clients it helps them understand.
What is that, a hip?
Yeah, well, just glute activation.
Okay.
And so what we do, we have these blue bands we got from Performance Better, and we wrap it around their knees, and it makes them push their knees out into a good position. We make them walk forward, walk backwards, do side raises, and then they have to do back kicks with it, and that helps activate the hamstrings and glutes. And then we put them on their back, and we make their feet get in a squat position. They're still driving their knees out, and they have to squeeze their glutes, activate that for 3 seconds, and then go back down to the ground. So it's basically like a bridge position. Mm-hmm. And then we make them do it with one leg. So they'll keep that band wrapped around their knees, raise one foot up off the ground, keeping their femurs parallel to one another, and then they have to do a single leg raise. And then if they still have issues with any kind of glute activation or hamstring activation, I put their back on a bench and then tell them to raise their hips up. We see a lot of people doing it with weights. I know you program that quite a bit, Justin, with a lot of people. But just getting them to learn how to use their ass whenever they're doing something.
Just learn how to contract the glute.
Yeah, contract the glute, and then we put them in the bottom of that position, and I'll stand behind them. And if somebody that really is like pretty flexible and that has zero when they send their hips down and back, if they can go straight down and up, I'll put a PVC pipe right behind them, and I'll tell them to squat straight down, squat up. That's whenever you see somebody that has the ankle flexion that you have to have. Yeah. But if you can go straight down, straight up with that, then you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, one of the first things that we check with everybody that walks through, and I know you do the Gray Cook, the FMS stuff, and I do, kind of a version of that, but one of the first things I check is making sure their heel's on the ground and seeing how much flexion they have and seeing how far the knee can track over the toe, because I know that if it doesn't track over that toe at all, they're going to have trouble doing everything that we do in the gym. So we need to address that right off the bat.
It's funny. I'm going out and hanging out with those guys out in Denver, Colorado, and I do the SFMA in the office, which is the selective functional
Gray Cook,
movement.
you're going
Gray
out
Cooks,
with them,
yeah. So selective functional movement assessment. So that's the FMS now into a little bit more of an advanced thing, and now you're actually focusing on specific movement patterns and doing some other neurokinetic therapy or NKT stuff. So now you're talking about what fires, in what order, how it fires, how it stabilizes. And so the number one big thing with the hip position and all that stuff and how position it is, again, and the easiest way to do this is to watch them do an overhead squat with a PVC pipe. You can watch them do that.
Fairly close grip, not like a ridiculous
you don't want to
one.
be all the way out to the edge. You don't want to be in all the way either. Just
not
somewhere,
a clean grip,
somewhere that's
between a
normal
clean
for
and a
them.
snatch.
And I think what's kind of cool is if you have and watch somebody do this and you find that you have restriction in the ankle, the hip, or the knee, it's actually really, really simple to fix this. Like it really is. And there's some stuff, and there's actually really
doesn't take a lot of
stuff.
time.
You
Not
should
only is
really
it
work
simple,
on it
but-
at home. You
Yeah.
should. And it's funny because once you start, and here's the great part for me, go in and work out in the gym CrossFit wise. And if you do the movements and practice them and keep working, the wonderful thing about CrossFit is it is varied, it is functional movements, and it is stability work. And it's that every single time. So if you're going in there, and even if you got the bar, I do not care if you have a 5-pound kettlebell underneath your chin and you're doing a squat, you are winning because you're actually completing
No, that's not
the
true.
exercise.
Unless I have over 300 pounds on the bar, I didn't work out.
That might be for you guys now, but
No, that's a lot of people's mentality.
Yeah,
you
No,
know,
that's
you
they're
know,
like-
90%
like-
mentality. I mean,
yeah,
that's,
it's like, oh, I'm
that
not.
should be people that even train for elite.
I
They
didn't bleed.
should still
Yeah,
be doing that.
I didn't bleed, and I didn't contemplate life, and I didn't have to concentrate for 20 minutes on not dying after the workout, so I didn't get a good workout in.
it's funny because I've had some elite people in the office. I've had Brandon in the office. I've had a lot of people in the office, and
You like how he said elite
I like-
people
oh,
and
yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah, elite
you
people
like that?
and Brandon.
Little help.
So I don't know if I'm in that box
Oh,
or out of the box.
man.
I
he's
don't know
he's in the box.
I don't know if I'm in that box or out of it.
But there's a lot of people that move really, really, really well, and Brandon has awesome ankle movement. He really does. Actually, you don't even have to help him there at all. The interesting thing is that you can pick out one thing, even with an elite person, and start taking them through the movement, and you're like, crap, I can't do that. And then what makes someone actually elite has nothing to do with their body. It's between your ears. And if you're elite, you've got it in your brain. And if you're told, hey, I need to do this, and this is what's going to make me better, then you're going to do it. And it's just going to get better and better and better and better. And it's going to be exciting for people to watch.
Yeah, but you're right. That is a big thing. Like somebody's like, well, either they ignore it or they attack it, and and again, going back to like some CrossFitters overdo it. So it
Sure.
can't be overdone. You focus on the small things, but once you get to that point, you kind of have to tweak that.
Now we're talking about small stuff. So you've done all the big things. Brandon's done all the big things. You know, he's done all the lifting. He's done all the training. He's done all the running. He's done all the stuff he's supposed to do. And now all I have to do with Brandon
Yeah, I was gonna
is
say, has he done all the running though?
nah.
I've been running
He
lately.
needs to work on his running.
See my calves? They got so much bigger.
I need to. Yeah, I got to work on my calves.
You can give somebody the true difference too, if you're talking about fitness wise and really elite wise too, is you can give an elite athlete one thing to do, and they can go and do it, and a week later they can lift like 10 or 15 pounds more.
Yeah,
That's huge.
because you found the weak link, and
That's
it's not
all
a
you
weak
just
link
picked
anymore.
out, that one little tiny weakness, you know, and that's it. And I've had some elite people too that walk in the office and you pick out their weaknesses, they actually can't handle it.
That's all it is
They
for
can't
me.
handle it
Like
mentally.
I'm a CrossFit Games level athlete. It's just I've got that one thing that's holding me back. It's the fitness. If I can fix that,
Priceless.
if I can fix that, I'll be at the games next year at 32 or 33. Well,
Balling
never
out.
mind.
You're 33 too, man. I'm 33.
No,
I'm about to be 33.
31, but next year at the
Oh,
games I would
yeah.
be. I'm about to be 32.
Oh, I'm
whatever.
still older than you.
So yeah, so cool. So now let's like the serratus
Serratus
specifically,
anterior anti-rotation. Yep.
and then pelvic tilt.
Pelvic tilt. Yep.
Or
Posterior
positioning.
versus anterior. That's
Yep.
a huge.
And then what would you say the third thing would be? Because you got to do it in threes.
That's right. You have to
You
do it
can't
in
have
threes.
2 or 4.
So the last one is actually really the funny part is if you want to have a great base, let's talk about your feet. And the big thing is too is this will actually help a lot with the squatting motion, and let's also talk about the big toe. A muscle called the flexor hallucis longus. This muscle runs. It's really, really interesting. It runs from the bottom of your big toe.
You just said that because you wanted to say that word. didn't
Flexor
you?
hallucis longus.
Yeah. He just wanted to put, like, sometimes I'll tell
Flexor
people
hallucis
about
longus.
PNF stretching just so I can say proprioceptive neurological facilitation
Yes.
stretching. Because it
Neuromuscular.
oh, yeah. No,
He blew it.
yeah, sorry. I screwed it up. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, so here's something really interesting about this big toe muscle. This big toe muscle runs from literal end of the toe, just underneath of where the fingernail is on the bottom part of your foot. Runs all the way up the bottom part of your foot, crosses the backside of your ankle, and goes up and attaches on the outside part of your fibula. Now, here's something really cool. You don't have an ankle brace on when you go and lift, I'm fairly certain. But if you want an ankle brace that works really well when you flex your leg and it holds your ankle together without it blowing apart, we need to work on this muscle, and this muscle has to be mobile. And you can actually take somebody, work on this muscle, do a couple of things, and be in wonderful shape to place the foot push the foot into the ground. A lot of times Brandon will talk about, okay, I want to collapse the arch into the ground, push the whole foot through the ground, feel it, spread it apart, make sure it's really nice and in contact with the floor. Once you're feeling the whole floor with your foot, now you can move that leg. And that's how you get that great
I don't
base.
actually say collapse the arch because a lot of my members, it would blow their mind. They'd be like, collapse my arch.
I don't understand.
I don't understand.
What is
I
he
just
talking
say, I want you to feel your whole foot to the floor.
Yeah. You say collapse your arms, but yeah, they just kind of go numb. They're just like, and they start to crouch.
And then that's the cue the whole time. They're like, I didn't collapse my arch. I did.
Oh, now here we go with the small stuff again.
Now we're starting to make shirts that say you got to collapse your arch if you want to do.
So now, going back to that, like I just recently, I've had a lot of problems with my lower back. I hadn't been able to squat or anything else, and I sent some videos over to Hull, and he came up to it. I knew my left foot's always been a problem because I broke that ankle. I tore all my ligaments in my left knee. I just got a lot of bad problems with my left leg. I've always had them. But lately, I haven't been able to go down to a squat at all. Like, I haven't been able to snatch. Most I could snatch it for a little while. I was like 230 with excruciating pain. But I started working on that, did some exercises for it, and now just the other day, I almost hit 270 again, and it was pretty easy. Now, I mean, I'm not saying my shoulders are still good overhead. I still had a little bit of a press out, but I can press 270 in a SOTS press. I do 270 SOTS press, so get off me.
Wow.
Partial range of motion 270 SOTS press.
Yeah, no, it's a good 6 inches.
But here's what we're talking about.
That's what she said.
If Brandon,
it's a good 6 inches.
If Brandon doesn't mind me saying, like when evaluated his squat up, go ahead and put it into a couple of different programs that I use and evaluated the snatching position, how you catching it, how it's moving, all that stuff. And here's the difference we're talking about, guys. 6 degrees. That's it. That's the difference between him having pain at 235 and 6 degree difference is enough to send him into 270 or 275 snatch and be like, yeah, I think I can train like this now. I mean, that's all we're talking about. Yeah. We're not talking about 27 degrees. Dorsiflexion. That's right. So that knee over top of the toe and that going straight forward, getting it over the top of the toe and feeling comfortable.
And is that and the piece that I'm not going to re-say what you said because I'll hack it all
FHL.
up.
It's good.
There you go. FHL.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a magazine.
That's right. Lord.
And that is the one that Brandon's a case study in that?
Yeah, so Brandon's is really, again, very interesting. His ankle moves perfectly fine. The calf is perfectly fine. Even the plantar fascia and the other muscles of the bottom of the foot are fine.
I was going to ask you actually
one muscle.
If you see if that has any correlation to people having plantar fasciitis or pain underneath.
That's how we treat it in the office. So you're actually working on that muscle right behind the ankle and getting it to slide, break down that scar tissue. That's what ART does. That's what Graston does. You're trying to break apart that scar tissue, use these tools to get you to that point so you can get it to slide. And as soon as it starts to move and slide and it's not stuck together, specifically right behind the ankle and at the big toe, right at the big joint, the big ball, we'll call it the knuckle of the joint, and that one in the big toe, once you get that thing to slide and to move, it's going to be huge. So stretching this out, getting it to move, it's a wonderful thing. If you can get that big toe involved in what you're doing, you'll actually squat more. You'll snatch more. You'll even overhead press more, because there's a research study out there that was done by Travell that said that you can actually work on this muscle, place the calf in the right position, and the middle part of the back will stay still. Now, what's the number one thing you guys want out of a push press? I need my mid back still and erect in the right position so that I can get that weight over my head. Mm-hmm. That comes from the toe, the big toe.
Yeah, that's definitely not something that most people will think about, I'm sure. It's like,
None.
man, my push press is really lacking. I need to get that up. I need to start doing some toe raises.
I need to do some toe raises, bro. let me dig in on that toe.
So what are the main things that you would go to help someone with that?
So I'm glad that Dr. Starrett, or the physical therapist, Dr. Kelly Starrett, he came up with the floss. So the floss is wonderful because it protects the joint. It's not going to let that joint, the actual muscle or the actual bones, move the joint itself, but it will allow the muscle to slide. So you wrap that ankle all the way as tight. I'm serious, as tight as it'll go. If your feet aren't going numb, you ain't doing it right. Go ahead and wrap it tight, and then start to really
We got
work
people
on
calling into the show like, I had to get my foot amputated.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'm suing
I
you.
literally lost all circulation.
You
toe.
only do it for
My
30
big toe does
seconds.
not
So
work.
Yeah, don't watch a television show.
it takes 90 seconds to lose your toe. So only do it for 30 seconds and then take it off.
Time this.
What you do is you actually put, and this is really, I know it sounds a little silly, but you're actually going to put your big toe onto a 45-pound plate. Okay, you're facing the squat rack. Big toe on the 45-pound plate. It's on the floor. You're going to take another band, like you would for pull-ups. Take that band and put it behind your knee, and let your knee bend as you stretch your calf into the wall. And while the floss is on there, you're going to push that. It's all about the big toe. Push your arch down into the floor and push the big toe backwards. Really, again, super simple, but here it is. 45-pound plate on the floor, facing the squat rack. You've got a pull-up band or the big power bands behind your knee, and let that calf stretch as you push your big toe into that plate.
So you have the band on the squat rack bar.
That's right, band on the
knee
squat
height,
rack.
Knee height.
And knee height, and put it right behind the knee. Let it pull you forward. Let that ankle really relax that ankle and just push that knee forward. Now, a lot of people in this era will actually have the knee go in over the big toe, like it'll, valgus. And we want it actually the opposite way. We want the knee over top of the last three toes, again, because it attaches on the outside part of the foot. We want that to stretch a little bit more.
Okay.
That's the problem I personally have. My knee collapses in on my left side.
So I've been having quite a bit of pain around the back arch of my foot myself. So and I don't know if it's it comes and goes. It's really bad in the evening, and then when I wake up in the morning, if I've been kind of horizontal for a long time, and I if plantar fasciitis or a stress fracture, who knows? I haven't been to check it out or whatever because I'm lazy.
And it could also be all of those or none of those. And technically, in your world, it doesn't matter because are you going to stop?
Yeah, no.
So what I love about CrossFitters too is
stop gains.
Yeah, I
bro.
can't stop the gains because I got a little foot pain.
I don't have to motivate you to do something. You're already motivated to do something. I just have to be able to teach you which modification you have to get to in order to get where you need to go.
Yeah. And it was funny. I don't jump rope and I don't run anymore.
That's right.
And I don't do rebounding box jumps, but it doesn't bother me at all snatching, clean and jerking or squatting or anything like that. So
Perfect.
I've just kind of taken out the things that I can't do and just kind of worked around it.
That's right. So modification is enormous too. And how you find a great gym is, again, in my opinion, and this is not necessarily specific to CrossFit, is somebody's got to be able to be in that gym, watch you do one thing and say, nope, we're modifying it to this. And that's how you find someone who's a great coach. And if you can see somebody moving correctly and watch that, perfect. Make a correction. Do that.
Yeah.
It's going to help.
Cool, man. Wow, that's like so much information. Like that's like knowledge bombs all over the place. It's like, actually, before we go any further, I don't know if we have a couple other things to talk about, but can we talk? Let's see, dynamicsporttherapy.com is your website.
That's right. Yep. Dynamicsporttherapy.com.
What else would you guys? Is there any other site or any blog or anything you guys do? Are you guys on social media or?
Yeah, so we have the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. It's at Dynamic Sports. I think it's both uppercase on both of those on Twitter, and I'll put some stuff up there from time to time and some things on the website and some stuff like that. And let's see, what was the other one? I think the functionalmovement.com is a good one. Like they'll go through, you can actually find exercises on there. When we didn't talk about, I like the Bretzel. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I just found that like a couple weeks ago. I've been doing it for T-spine mobility.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. And
let's talk about that a little bit.
You can actually work on that for someone's hip. You can work on that for someone's T-spine. I mean, it's a great again, here it is. What is it about? Rotation, right? I mean, we keep coming back to rotation. And I've actually had it where I've started having people take the kettlebells at the office here, and Greg Cook talks a lot about this, but a lot of the overhead farmer walk, you know what I'm talking about, where you just press one kettlebell over top of your head. You create a hollow rock position, though, with the core. Yeah. You maintain that core over top of the head, and you can instantly stop someone's back pain if it is a hip flexor / like lower cross syndrome where you don't have ab activation and glute activation, you can actually instantly stop someone's back pain in the middle of a workout, end of a workout, and it works out really well. So
that's like an extra pro tip right there.
That's funny. That's like the other day we were doing to help people achieve a hollow rock position. I actually had them get into a push-up position, but walk their hands out past their shoulders.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden they start losing their spine. You tell them to push into the ground, and they go to a hollow rock.
It's really fun to watch.
Is like we coupled that with an overhead walking kettlebell. So they just
single arm
kettlebell, single arm, and they made them try to feel that position again and walk across. Now, I mean, I didn't have anybody in the room talk about, I don't have back pain, because most of our clients, fortunately, they don't have any kind of back pain. That at least they talk to me about. They might talk to Hull about it. They don't talk to me about it. But
I get to hear about it.
Yeah, he hears about it most of the time. But
everything's fine for you because they want to do it RX. Yeah. They know if they tell you, they're like, oh, well, let's just do this today. No, I'm going to be on top of the leaderboard. Yes, and then they come and like, oh, that Brandon, man, he just beat me up.
Yeah. You know what's cool about Brandon's gym I thought was really interesting is the competition is obviously there, but also at the same time, I actually see a bunch of people don't go, oh, I have to be on the top all the time. It's funny because I had a couple of the members come up and say,
they've got so many great athletes.
That's right.
A lot of people are like, well, there's no way.
There's really no way for me to compete with these guys, and it's kind of nice. I like that.
No, it is cool. And you're talking about competition and talking about that, we've actually had, it's really fun to watch somebody who does a buttload of abs and they think they've got strong abs, they got a big deadlift and stuff like that, and you have them do like a Superman push-up where the arms are up and they can't do it.
No, not at all.
And like, what, man, like that's crazy. And it's like the most mind-blowing thing to those people. Like we've got dudes, they do crunches every single day against my recommendation, and weighted and everything else because summer's around the corner. But they can't do one single Superman push-up.
Well, the other one, I'd ask them a lot of times to say, okay, lay flat on your back, put your hands on your thighs. Now, you're dead from your waist down. Dead. I mean dead.
Yeah.
Don't use your legs at all. Don't roll your hips backwards. Don't pull your heels backwards. Don't push into the table. Don't lift your legs up. Nothing. Do a full sit-up. Less than 10% of the population can do it.
Yeah.
Less than 10. Because they all cheat with their hip flexors.
I mean, I cheat with my hip flexors.
Well,
I kip everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
I kip a push-up.
I kip a sit-up.
Use whatever you can. Yeah.
I can push up.
Use whatever you can. Well, it's. I saw, and talking about dead from the hips down, and not. I mean, it's a horrible situation. With Kevin Ogar or whatever. I saw him doing muscle ups from the seated position the other day, which is
do it.
But I mean, it was
That's
amazing.
Right.
Like he's so like someone like that. Like he was an amazing athlete to begin with, and now he's had to become so much stronger in the areas that he has because that's all he has.
That's right.
And to see him, just literally get up from a seated position and then be able to stabilize sitting up or whatever is so impressive.
And remember, this is a human being who is paralyzed.
Is actually dead, literally dead from the waist down.
Just above the waist, right at the navel is where his fracture was. So basically where that nerve runs. So just below his navel, nothing else works.
Yeah.
Unreal. Because you cannot use that.
I was on a podcast with him. He actually said that the junk still works.
Oh, perfect.
He wanted to tell the ladies that right off the bat when we talked in California. And he's like,
everything's still working.
Yeah, sometimes I have girls come up and ask me, I just want to put it out there right now, the junk still works. So I'm like, that is awesome. How good, first of all, how good of an attitude do you have to to be able to joke about that kind of stuff? But anyways, yeah. No, super amazing guy too. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you would say, 10% of people can't sit up?
No, only 10% can.
10% can? So you got to try that now. Now it's like challenge accepted.
I bet you every single person is laying on the ground right now going,
while they're listening to the podcast. Look, if you're driving, don't do it. Ever get out of your car
if you're listening to this right now and you're going to try this at home, just remember, I have seen every single one of the CrossFit Games athletes that I've seen try this, and I would dare say maybe 25 to 30% of them can do it.
Oh, wow. So, but they're at least better percentage than the normal population.
They are better percentage.
Yeah.
But
when you get to that level, you better be able to do a sit-up with no legs.
That's right. You better be able to, or you're going to struggle.
That's a knowledge bomb right there. If you want to go to the CrossFit Games, start with sitting up with no legs. That's a good starting point.
Or try and lay. This is my favorite video I've ever taken to Brandon. Try and lay flat on your back. Dead again. Here we go. Dead from the waist down again.
Yeah.
And just roll over with your upper body.
Oh, I hate
on your
that.
stomach.
Just
roll over.
We do that as warm ups. We'll do hollow rock to Superman's.
Yep. Don't use your legs.
People have the most trouble even using their legs. They have the most trouble doing it ever. They're like, how do I do it without using my arms?
I'm pretty sure that has something to do with rotation.
Now I have another challenge.
Your 6-month-old can do it.
Another challenge.
Absolutely.
Another challenge to extend. Yeah, whatever gym you're at, I don't care if it's 10,000 square feet or 1,000 square foot. Go one end of the wall, hollow rock, arch rock, or Superman, all the way to one end and all the way back without your hands touching or your knees touching.
Wait.
Oh, like, so you're
You
saying
just
like
roll.
roll over.
You just keep rolling.
Roll over.
Just
I
keep
would,
rolling.
I would
Can't do
throw
it.
up before
Just
I
keep
got
rolling.
there.
You can't do it.
We had Sean Brown over there. Maybe we'll get him on the
hard.
show one day. He's Ireland. You know, he has
Yeah.
Ireland weightlifting champ, U23 or something like that, world's team member. And he's here at CrossFit HD now. And he came over and lifted with us. And before he did Olympic lifting, a couple of interesting things. Before he did Olympic lifting, he was like a level 7 or 8 gymnast. I mean,
Yes.
and that was like their warm up.
Oh, wow.
Going across the gymnasium floor in a hollow rock and arch rock.
See,
Like if you asked, if you
started with
interesting-
that,
but
that's
what's
why gymnasts are so
interesting,
good.
we always talk about how CrossFitters come in and they leave weightlifting. So you can have an Olympic weightlifter come and do CrossFit and make it to the games. You will never have an Olympic weightlifter take up gymnastics and make it to a children's state championships.
Not
They
even
can't-
close.
They can't do it.
But it's someone that with a gymnastic background
Can come over and do everything else.
Yeah.
But there's no other sport where they can cross over. Like in wrestling, there was I forgot the guy's name, but he was a D1 wrestler, national champ. He tried out for the NFL. All of a sudden, he's getting paid $1 million being an offensive lineman. You know, and he can try that transfers over, but not. I can't think of any other sport that transfers over to gymnastics as well as gymnastics does do everything that you do.
Jared, do you think that
one they have massive serratus and all that kind of stuff.
Their
Because of all the
shoulders
Their
solid.
protein.
big toe works better than anybody else's.
Big toe, baby. Hey, Wiz Big Toe Mojo
But,
right
I mean,
there.
I'm just throwing that out there though. Like gymnastics, though. I mean, that's like it's
no,
pretty
absolutely.
impressive.
Do you think that has anything to do with because everything they do is throughout all kind of three planes? Like just like wrestlers, like you have to be strong and stable in every single position because you might be sideways, upside down with your foot over your head.
That's exactly right. If you can't, and we've been working on this with a couple of the games guys, but like you go upside down in a handstand, your world is literally upside down, obviously.
Yeah.
And here's the funny part: you don't need those big old quads you got.
Yeah.
They become worthless. In fact, they actually.
Thank you for
hinder
calling my quads big, by the way. It's the
Exactly.
first time anyone's ever done that.
But a gymnast in all the different planes with all the different stuff that they do, flipping through the air, control, all that stuff, that's one of the best things you could ever do. Like if I would tell, like my children are 4 and 2 and they're both going to start gymnastics because I don't even care. I do not care if they get anything out of it other than the fact that they get stability. So at the house, we've got rings at the house. We've got pull-up bars at the house for them and everything. And that's the only thing that matters, be all those different planes, tumbling mats, get them to be spinning around and all that kind of stuff.
It's also one of the most dangerous sports too, man. You go into any gymnastics, gym, and like half the 12-year-olds there are in body casts.
Well, they're standing off to the
Like,
side doing sit-ups.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's still working.
So here's the funny thing:
My
is,
big toe doesn't work. But
I never met a CrossFitter that didn't have some pain.
yeah,
Gymnastics,
yeah.
NFL, MLB,
If you're gonna be good at
NBA.
anything,
If you're a warrior, and I would consider people who work out and you're an athlete in general, you're a warrior. If you don't expect to have some soreness or some pain somewhere in something you do, you're not doing it hard enough.
yeah, it's really frustrating when people come. It's like, man, I'm having a little bit of pain. It's like you do not know the difference between soreness and injury. And if you can't differentiate between those two, like you just either haven't been doing it long enough or it's just not going to work out for you because you are going to be sore.
Yes.
And yes, you can get injured. And then, I mean, yeah, if you have a torn ACL, you don't need to be squatting. But, I mean, there's going to be joint pain.
Yeah.
And if you get good at any of these things, you can be a novice and get a decent amount of general physical preparedness as long as you're okay and like with, that kind of that you're complacent. as long as you're okay with kind of being that average. But most CrossFitters aren't. When they get into CrossFit, they want to constantly push. So if that's probably one of the first things you need to think about. You need to like weigh the pros and cons. Like, are you okay with being sore most of the time? Because
CrossFit's for you if you're okay for being sore.
Yeah, if
Whereas
you're
if you
okay
have
with
it
being
between
sore.
the ears, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are also limitations. I'll throw in there. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have somebody's femur that femur formed in a coxavera versus a coxavalga position, anterior, and
Talking
all
about
that
the head
different
of the
stuff.
femur
The head of the
into
femur,
the-
you can into the pelvis. It can form differently. You can have a congenital thing where the arch of your foot is set up a little bit differently because you have a higher testosterone or higher estrogen level when you're born, and the navicular bone grows at a greater rate in the foot. I mean, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff out there about that stuff.
You were talking that specific, the head of the femur going in there. I'm curious about that because that was maybe a couple years back or whatever. There's some controversy and stuff, people going back and forth on the internet about that or whatever, is trying to fix that toe out issue that you see, specifically females and post and specifically I believe post pregnancy females, because of the way the hip changes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Some people, my wife specifically, have the head of the femur is at a different angle or is different than something. So you are not going to be able to have that perfect toe straight. It doesn't matter how much you work on mobility, because unless you have like ridiculous orthopedic surgery, you're not going to be able to have that, right?
Really.
Yeah.
And again, I'll get a chance to chime in on this side. As someone who sees people who move every day and studies it, I get all kinds. I really do. And the big thing is, I ask them first to start off with their feet straight when I evaluate them. And you can take a look at somebody and you can actually feel and see not feel, I guess, but see a bone on bone or a joint lock that happens with somebody with an anteverted versus a retroverted femur, meaning a forward or backwards tilt to that actual femur. And I tell them, I say, so what? Your toes go out. Your glutes still work the same way as the other person who keeps their feet straight. That glute medius still has to fire.
And if the toe's still tracking over the knee and you don't have a valgus, it's still safe.
Score. That's exactly the big thing, is if your knee is if the center part of your patella is straight over top of the second toe in the foot, and forward and backwards, that direction, and no moving back and forth or
throughout the whole range of motion,
you're in great shape. Your toes could be pointed completely to the side.
I remember she argued with, and she finally had to stop. She told me when she went and got her level 1 for CrossFit, they were trying to well, no, we're gonna do this. We put boxes and 45 plates on the side. It's like, no, you got to have your toes forward, this and that. She's like, look, guys, it's not gonna happen. Trust me, we've already tried everything. I've been to orthopedics, I've tried this and that or whatever. And whoever it was, I'm not gonna call anybody out. I don't even know who it was that was trying to work with her. They were trying to help her.
That's right.
But they just, I guess maybe they weren't aware of that. So they're like, no, it can be fixed. But there's certain situations, like you said, I mean, genetics, just the way you're made, there's some things that you're going to have to change that aren't going to be the same. Every body is different.
Well, and here's something really interesting. A carrying angle of the elbow, really wide, or it's wider of the carrying angle of the elbow. In like Annie Storsdottir and those guys, where are they from? What's it again? Iceland. So Icelandic people actually have a wider carrying angle.
When you say that, explain what that is.
So carrying angles, if you straighten your arm completely straight, you'll see some people like English heritage and German and Irish, very straight. Very, very straight.
Now you're just being racist.
Sure.
I'm just kidding.
No, but
So Irish.
But here's
Irish,
something
bro.
really interesting. This part of the forearm will tilt outward that way, and it will be like this.
Yeah.
It will be like that when that's called a carrying angle of the actual arm. And in an Icelandic or Norway or whatever people, those people have a wider carrying angle. They're having more difficulty with loading under a snatch over their head because of the way they catch, because of what happens at the elbow, than others. And the same holds true with, there are certain parts of northern Chinese that have actual shoulder range of motion difference than you or I do. They can actually take their arm through a different shoulder range of motion than someone else. And here's the other part that I'll chime in with. Somebody's got to know that. You got to trust somebody to say, have you studied that enough? Do you know enough stuff
to see it when
to
it's
see
there?
it and say, nope, trust me on this, dude. Like, you take x-rays, you take MRIs, you do whatever
Yeah.
you need to do, but you get to that point, you say, listen, your angle of your femur, this is how you need to squat. That's it. That's the end of this story, and just leave it that way.
More curious, I'm not sure if you know or not, talking about the carrying the pathway, is
Yeah.
that an actual joint issue, or is it like the ulnar, or like is one bone longer in your arm than the other, and that's why it like brings out that way, or what?
So what's interesting is they think that the outside part of the humeral head, where the radial head attaches inside of the elbow.
So where the lower part of your arm attaches to the upper part of your arm at your elbow joint.
At the elbow, if you turn your hand flat by your side up towards the ceiling and you look at the outside part of your arm, that's the radial head that's there, and it should rotate in and out. With people from Norway, from Iceland, a lot of times you'll actually see them where that radial head and the humeral head, the two bones that attach to each other, they form differently. They form differently because of the way that the piece fits in there. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's a capitulum, but basically the bone on the edge of the humerus is the one that changes it. So it pushes the arm outward that way because this part of the humerus is different. That's their genetics.
It's probably
That's the way they were born.
all the rowing that the Vikings did. It's probably what it is.
Don't you think that might be actually true?
No, yeah, I mean, I'm
Right,
joking, but I'm only partially joking.
That might be seriously true
yeah.
because you think about a rowing motion, a unilateral rowing motion. Don't you have your arm bent the whole time?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you compress this outside piece a lot more? I
Yeah.
mean, so that's again the same thing. We have to take that into consideration. Human beings are fascinating, and they're different, and they move very different. We can throw stuff out as saying, do the anti-rotation, watch your pelvic position, watch that big toe, watch it whatever, do these things. But sometimes you might get somebody and be like, nope, you got to do it this way.
We should, but sometimes you're just screwed. So if you could take anything from this podcast, it's that try your best, but if you're 5'6", probably not going to be starting the NBA.
Probably not. But Brandon and I talk about this a lot. Having a team of people around you is the only thing that matters. If you're so choosing to do Olympic lifting, CrossFit, gymnastics, NFL, MLB, whatever, you need a team of people around you. Very much so, like certainly like in life is that you're going to need a mechanic someday. You're probably going to might need a lawyer for your will or whatever. You're probably going to need a medical doctor to check up and see how your cholesterol is doing and all that kind of stuff. And at some point you might need a chiropractor, you might need a PT. You might need these people to mechanically put you back together and work with your trainer or work with your coach in order to get you into the right position to do the right things. It's just another part of life, and unfortunately people don't really realize that as they're going through it. I think the greatest thing that people can do is put mentors and team people around them.
Yeah, I love it when people that win, pretty much anything, I mean, they have people to thank because it was a team. Like, you can't do it alone. I mean, some people might want to think that it's them that's doing everything. And yeah, I mean, maybe, if you're LeBron James, you're probably the main contributing factor to, that ring, but it doesn't mean that it's not still a team working together. So,
and again, the same thing, being out at the CrossFit Games with some other of the team members and things like that, you walk around in the back, and I'll be dead serious honest. Nobody talks about this, but there's a chiropractor, a PT, a massage therapist, a medical doctor. They're all walking around with everybody.
At the Arnold, man, they had massage therapist, ART, everybody
everywhere.
Like right there while they're training.
Yeah,
and they're going back and forth.
back and forth. And that's what you'll see at regionals. The same thing when nobody talks about is in the back. If you're there and you're somebody, most of the time you're working with somebody to make sure that everything's working as best you can.
A lot of them brought their personal ones with them.
Absolutely.
Like, they're to that point. I'm like, wow. I know you're not making any money off of weightlifting. How are you affording that? Like you flew your chiropractor out with you, like your life coach with you, that little midget that gets inside you and does your workouts for you. Oh man, cool. Well, this has been an awesome podcast, and hopefully I feel like it wasn't boring, and yet we still got a chance to really get a lot of good information in. So this has been one of my favorite ones for sure. Jered, do you have anything that you want to plug or anything like that?
I think the greatest thing that you can probably say about this and about movement in general is that find somebody that does functional movement assessment. Find somebody that does soft tissue work, somebody that does manipulation, somebody that adds it all together, and that person can help you kind of go forward. Obviously, that's something that we do here at our office at Dynamic Spine and Sports Therapy. We have one in Kennesaw, and then we'll have one in Alabama as well. And it's going to be very important at some point that you realize that there's somebody out there that'll take the time to evaluate you and do that for over an hour, and then try and figure out how to put things together for you and make it move forward. It's really super simple, and it doesn't have to be about me. If you're in Ohio, I guarantee you there's an ART provider, and then you just go to the other functional movement website and just check and see if they're functional movement certified. Yeah. And if they are, now you're talking.
Or just wait until you open one up there.
Or you could do that too.
Yeah.
You might need it tomorrow, but I don't know.
Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing
Break whatever you want.
There's a dynamicsportstherapy.com location near you. Yeah, slash
Ohio.
Dynamic
slash Dallas, Texas.
Ohio. Till there's a Chick-fil-A of PT.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A of PT. I like that. Well, cool, man. Thank you so much. As always, go to garageathletes.com, sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on Facebook under Garage Athletes, Twitter and Instagram at Garage Athletes, and we will be putting up videos on our YouTube channel of all the movements that we talked about today to make sure you guys are actually doing it right and you're not just screwing it up and making it worse. So go check us out there. YouTube channel is Garage Athletes. And Brandon, you got anything?
Train hard.
Brandon's sign-offs are always the best. I'm so glad you're back, Brandon. I am so glad you're back.
I really miss the Arnold, going back and watching y'all getting to hang out with all those awesome people.
You're gonna go on the next trip. I miss
awesome.
having Brandon with us for sure. So, well, thank you guys. I think I want to go work out now. I want to do some pile-off presses.
And big toe stretches.
Presses.
Big toe stretches. I'm gonna get my
presses and big toe stretches.
That's a new shirt.
That's the name of this podcast.
Oh, is that the name? All right, we'll see you next time, guys.